Don't know who this is for. I don't know who needs to hear this, but due to current events, I felt very drawn to making this video. My name is Michael. I am an Army veteran, and I deployed to Afghanistan from 2020 to 2021 for the drawdown. I'm going to tell a story I usually tell pretty funny. And it is funny, but it is evidence for my point. When I first went to the doctor's office after coming back, they asked for a urine lab. And I sat there in front of the nurse with a cup in my hand, waiting, because I thought that they were going to follow me in and watch me pee to make sure that I was actually the one supplying the sample. This is because in the Army, you do urinalysis, right? They test you for drugs and they, make sure that you're not slipping in someone else's urine so that you can skip the drug test and do something bad in your free time. It is funny, assuming that the nurse is going to need to watch me give a medical sample, but it's that kind of mindset that I am so untrusted. I am not able to be a complete person. I need to be watched at all times. It invades your everyday life, right? The military dehumanizes. It dehumanizes everyone. It dehumanizes the enemy. It dehumanizes civilians, and it dehumanizes yourself in your own head. And that's the real tragedy of it, is you stop viewing yourself as an individual and you start viewing yourself as part of this unknowable mass that doesn't care about you. The mission always comes first. That is what is drilled into you from day one. And granted, I can only speak to the Army, and I can only speak to my portion of the Army that I witnessed. So if there are differing opinions, or if you think that other branches do it different, other sections do it different, please tell me. But the mission comes first. And you are told that the mission is all important. Whatever orders come down from on high are ironclad. You cannot question them, you cannot circumvent them. Individual suffering isn't just accepted, it's almost expected, right? There's a certain nobility to the way that people will work long hours, stack 10 more sandbags, hurt themselves. There's a big stigma around back and knee pain in the Army, where, the older soldiers, they have back and knee pain. And that's almost viewed as a mark of honor that you've done your time, you've done something because you're in pain. You have suffered for the Army. And at the end of the day, the Army doesn't care if you are suffering. The Army cares if its mission gets done. On the opposite side of things, killing is trivialized. Not just trivialized, but shown as a noble and exciting thing to do. If you look at the cadences that are sung, even as early as basic training or ROTC, the Airborne Ranger cadence talks about how they want to shoot their enemies in the head. The 240 Bravo cadence just lists off a bunch of weapons that they like to kill with. And it's thought of as this is grand, almost orgasmic thing to be able to kill. It's perverse when you really think about it with more than a minute, and especially with the perspective of, having gone overseas and seen the things that happen. At the end of the day, the military is staffed by very young people. In my office in Afghanistan, nobody was over the age of 24. It was an absolute children's crusade, and that's intentional. The military retirement is 20 years, which sounds like a lot when you're 18, but being retired at 38, I mean, it's unthinkable. There's a cutoff. You have to be under the age of, I believe, 35. Sure, there's waivers, but if you look at it at face value, you have to be under a certain age. They don't want people with world experience. They want young, strong, preferably men that they can throw into a meat grinder and then just ship them off to some VA facility when they come back too broken to function. Additionally, using young people, it creates sort of a no true Scotsman type dilemma. In the Army, which I know this is unlike other branches, on your everyday duty uniform, on the right hand shoulder, you wear what's called the combat patch. If you have deployed, you get a combat patch. If you have not deployed, you do not get a combat patch. And there's actually a derogatory term for those people. You call them slick sleeves. If you see a slick sleeve walking around, do you really have to listen to them? They haven't been overseas, they haven't done anything. And it becomes a visible signifier that this person has done the real job. This person matters more. And it makes young people want that, right? You know, young people are desperate for status, they're desperate for accomplishment. And I remember being a young private and seeing my NCOs, my sergeants, with their combat patch and thinking, wow, those guys are cool. Those guys are real soldiers. But the worst part is you go overseas, you get your combat patch, and you're still not a real soldier. Because then the bar gets raised. Well, you're not a real soldier until you have a ranger tab, until you become a ranger. Well, and then I'm sure as once you become a ranger, you're not a real ranger until you're scrolled. You're not a real soldier until you have a bronze star. And it probably goes all the way up where people with the Medal of Honor think that they're not a real soldier yet. And all of this serves to make these people okay with killing, to make them want it. They're so desperate to be a part of this thing. They're so desperate to get the accolades. And they're told that the way you get these accolades is you go somewhere else and you kill someone for it. And while you're there, that's what you do. At the end of the day, when you are in the military, your job is to wage war. I was a signals intelligence analyst. So I was a nerd's nerd. I was making sure that all of the signals intelligence we collected went to the right spot. And yet, I was waging war. And there will come a time in every deployment where you can't ignore that anymore. Whether it's because someone's shooting at you, whether it's because there's a VBID or a vehicle-borne IED that just went off, and now you are cowering in a bunker with your weapon, or even just understanding the bigger picture and that the intelligence that you pushed got someone killed. Your job is to wage war. While you're there, while you're overseas, every day is stressful. Not the white hot knuckle clenching stress that combat is. It's not that every day. It's very boring. But there's a little voice in your head that says, is today the day we're going to get blown up? Is today the day that the Taliban rushes in with 1,000 fighters, overruns our position, and kills us before the QRF can even get close to us? And that consistent low-level stress hooks your brain. It makes you unable to plan for the future. It makes you unable to even think about what happens when you come home. It makes you desperate to come home, but you can't even begin imagining what that'll be like. And so, because you're so stressed out, because you can't think ahead, because you aren't in control of yourself, you can't even leave if you wanted to, especially if you wanted to. You start looking for outlets. That's why people become addicted to nicotine, because there's a lot of cigarettes over there. There's a lot of Zins, there's a lot of vapes. You need something to take the edge off. And unfortunately, the Army provides a very large target to take the edge off, and that is violence. There's a prevailing consciousness or a prevailing thought that it's a good day when the enemy dies, regardless of who they are, regardless of what they've done. If someone has been marked as the enemy, their lives are forfeit. And it's not until you get home that you realize that pressing that little button, it changes you. You can't take back those actions. And some people choose not to realize that. The only people who are excited for war are those who have never been or those who have never left. And those who have never been, I implore you to speak to those who have been through it, whether veterans, civilians who were casualties of the circumstance, even enemy fighters. I'm sure that there are members of the Taliban, former members, current members, who abhor what happened during that horrible war. And to those who never left, I am truly sorry. But that is a burden that you can put down. Once you start seeing violence as your outlet, once you start feeling like the mission is all that matters, and that if you were to die, you would be doing it for something greater than yourself, you stop thinking about yourself as an individual. You think, how can I help the team? Rather than, is what I'm doing what I want to be doing? When I got home in 2021, I thought I was fine. I was bored. I was annoyed. I was just ready to go to college and leave it all behind me. But I couldn't. Slowly, piece by piece, I realized that I had done things that I never thought possible for myself. I had seen things that no one should, and I couldn't handle it. One night, I was coming home from a doctor's appointment. I was walking, and I started having an argument. You know, when you get in an argument with in your head, and I was going back and forth thinking, I should have said this. Oh, I should have done that. Oh, I should have said this. And slowly, it stopped being about the walk. I started hallucinating that I was back in the room. And when I say hallucinating, I mean it was real. It was scary how real it was. I could feel the wood of my desk. I could see the screens in front of me. I could smell the remains of lunch in the garbage can. That is how real this scene was. I had this argument and I was winning, because of course I was, when suddenly I looked to my right sharply and saw headlights. I had wandered into the street, and I nearly got hit by a car. I sat on the curb and cried for about 15 minutes straight, which is a long time to cry. That's when I knew that I needed to do something about it. When you hear a war being called righteous, justified, necessary, I don't want you to think that it is. There is no such thing as a justified war. Certainly not bombing Iran. It's simply not. There are horrible things in this world. I agree. You have to agree. There are horrible things in this world. Why are we one of them? There is no joy to be found in violence. When it is all done, when the dust settles, the only thing you can feel is disgust. The military is not an evil organization. It's simply not. There's no such thing as a wholly evil organization. It does do good things, you know. They do build roads. They do build bridges. They do send the National Guard in to help people with floods. But don't think for 1 second that they aren't aware that they are waging war. If you are in the military, know your rights. Please. Know how to disobey illegal orders. Know what illegal orders are. And honestly, know when to disobey immoral orders. Every single bit of reprimand, Article 15, whatever you want, it is worth it. I would trade every single ribbon on my chest to be able to take back some of the decisions I made overseas. And I'm sure there is a good amount of people who would agree with me. Now, I don't want to leave you on doom and gloom. There are ways to help. There are ways to improve the situation. Get out, call your congresspeople, get them to actually flex their powers. And if you know people that are in the military, give them a call, shoot them a text, ask them how they're doing. Really talk to them and see where their heads are at, because you might be able to give someone the confidence to say no. And that is more power than you could possibly imagine.